pledge with Phil Kober.
All right, good evening. As we assemble this evening to conduct the business of the board, please join me in a moment of reflection on the work that we've done, the work that we're doing, and the work yet to be done. And now for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, fire evacuation announcement. In the unlikely event of a fire, please exit through the back doors of the council chambers and out to the parking lot, or you can go out the side doors over here. Take a left down the first stairway and out to the back parking lot. Kathy, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Kober,
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Here.
Mrs. Pickett,
Here.
Mr. Ryder,
Here.
Mrs. Akri,
Here.
Dr. Kalman,
Here.
Mrs. Cushman,
Here.
Mr. Gauss,
Here.
Chairwoman Riley.
Here. Here. Okay, board guests, circle of security.
Great. Mrs. Akri and Dr. Callan, through the Mental Wellness Committee, have asked and are pleased to welcome the Town of Enfield Social Services Director Cindy Guerreri and a whole bunch of other folks we've got over here, Amy Morales, Aaron Grimes, Angelica Fajardo, and Lisa Carrere. And they're going to, enclosed in your packet, you have a number of different flyers and whatnot in terms of this Circle of Security program. They're going to provide you an overview of that and some other programs Enfield Social Services offers to members of the Enfield community. So welcome, ladies. Look at you, you got like front row and second row. It's going to be like a volleyball rotation as we go through this presentation.
So just making sure that this will do that. I'm sorry? Oh, sure. Hello, good evening. Nice to be here. All right, we're going to be doing a presentation about a specific program that there was an interest in, but in all transparency, I invited myself because I've never met you. I've been here 5 years, and I wanted to take the opportunity to say hello and to tell you a brief overview of the Social Services Department, and then Amy and the rest of the folks are going to talk to you about programming. So with that, very brief. Who are we as far as social services? 75 staff members, and we're largely divided into divisions by age and area of focus. So we have the adult and elderly division, child, youth, and family, care coordination, community initiatives, and then within that, our staff are on different teams so that we can be constantly sharing ideas and strategy development. So, what do we do? Under adult and elderly, we're responsible for the transportation, Dial-A-Ride, and the Magic Carpet Bus. We do food and nutrition. We do that both at Stowe. I know that's not adult and elderly, but we do it at Stowe and at Mark Twain Congregate Living. So we have a food and nutrition manager responsible. We provide case management. I think we've served over the last year over 2,000 people that come in for all kinds of issues. Some of them are mentioned here. A lot of the benefit programming, and then a lot of severe issues such as homelessness and obviously housing instability, food instability. We also serve staff support to the town's Commission on Aging, so we have a lot of connection there around planning, and then the Fair Rent Commission that we staff. Child, youth, and family, we have our early care and education program, infants, toddlers, preschoolers, before and after school. We do have the largest before and after school program funded by the state of Connecticut OEC, and that's housed at ECDC Stowe. Parent education and support is a really simple term, but Amy's going to talk more about family resource centers. But we also provide youth development. FRCs do some of that, but we have, based on the Search Institute's developmental asset, we have different programs, some of which occur within the schools, and we're happy to be able to partner in that respect. Some examples: Girls Circle, Brick Club is a neurodiverse program with Lego, a theater program, a lunch bunch, and we have recently all been trained in financial literacy that we'll be able to do with youth and adults. And we've already met with Michelle Middleton around making sure that we can help complement what the requirements are now for students that the school you're already providing, because we don't want to duplicate. Community initiatives. We have a co-response model, and that's social work and law enforcement. We have a social worker outposted at PD full-time, and she's equipped to be able to go on calls as needed or do follow-ups, especially for some significant issues that happen out in the field. We do diversion program by co-facilitating the Juvenile Review Board. We do that in partnership with the police department. And we also do crisis response. Joanna Fornwall is our clinical care coordinator. She oversees a town-wide response team for whenever there may be a tragedy or untimely death. Then we have mental health and wellness. So we have our ETC Mental Health and Wellness Coalition. Madam Chair is a member of that, actually serves in a chairing role there. Dr. Calnan and Ms. Acree have agreed to be content area experts, attended the kickoff, and have expressed interest in, we just launched the task force on social connections, and we had our first meeting around really how do we help people get to know one another to minimize isolation that we know is happening. We also have the Enfield Youth Council connected to ETC Mental Health and Wellness, and Izzy sits on that as well. You're a busy person. I think that pretty much covers it. Just a little bit, we are funded, thankfully well, by other entities outside of the general fund of the town, and so these are just some of our funders. I'm going to hand it over to Amy now. Thank you for letting me come.
Thank you, Cindy. Hello, everyone. We're so excited to be able to be here tonight to talk to you about Circle of Security parenting, because we're just so passionate about it, and you'll hear in a little while. But I just wanted to give you a little overview of Family Resource Centers. So Cindy will move me to the first slide. So our formal, just click.
That one?
Yep.
No, that didn't work either.
Oh, where's Alex?
Hold on. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, here.
This one?
There we go. Okay. All right. So the formal definition of Family Resource Centers is here, but basically we really serve as a welcoming hub of family support within the schools. The location within the schools is really what makes FRCs unique. It allows us to develop positive relationships with families as early as possible, getting families comfortable with the school. Also, what's unique to Enfield, which I think is wonderful, is that most FRCs across the state are part of their Board of Education. So us being part of social services for the town of Enfield is really unique. Out of the 57 FRCs, I think there are only 3 that are not part of their school district, and we're one of them. And I think it's really just a testament to the partnership between the town and the schools over the past 25 plus years that has made this model successful. So I think that really is a strength. Our first FRC was funded in 1998 from the Connecticut State Department of Education grant for our original site, which was at Alcorn. When Alcorn closed, we relocated to Enfield Street School. And then in 2017, we moved to Henry Barnard School, where we have been located ever since. In 2011, we were fortunate to receive funding from the LEGO Community Fund in partnership with KITE for a second FRC to open at Hazardville Memorial School. Many of you were at that grand opening. I know Tina gave the opening remarks, I believe, with Mayor Copen at the time. So that we were there until 2015 when Stowe opened, and we were the first inhabitants of the Stowe Early Learning Center. And so that site has been at Stowe ever since. And I would like to give a quick shout out to Jim Graham, the principal at Henry Barnard School, and Jacqueline Valley, the director of early childhood initiatives at Stowe, for their leadership and support in valuing the FRC at both sites. It's really what has made us so successful, because we feel like we're really part of the school community. And since we're all working together for the same goal of supporting children and families, it's just been a great partnership. So our team, myself, my office is located at Alcorn School and Alcorn in Social Services. So I'm actually back where I started 20 years ago. And I remember you came to many programs with your son years ago at Alcorn. So then we have Erin Grimes, our lead parent educator. She's located at Stowe. Lisa Carrier is our Henry Barnard parent educator. And then Angelica Fajardo is our early childhood social worker. She's part of the care coordination team, but she's housed in the FRC space at Stowe as well. And then just a quick little overview of what we offer, some of what we offer. Our Learning Through Playgroups, that's really the heart of our program, designed to bring children ages birth to 5 and their families together for socialization, school readiness skills. Each week we have over 150 families attending these groups between the 2 sites. We also have included in those groups community events like Friday field trips, evening playgroups, summer preschool camps, all kinds of programs for families. Sparkler uses an app. It's an app for parents to complete their ages and stages developmental questionnaires to help see how children are developing in all areas. We're also going to be adding the MChat screening tool to our offering soon, thanks to a new partnership with CCMC. Resource and referrals to other services that families might need. Positive youth development, like Cindy mentioned. We do some after-school enrichment programs for families at Barnard, for kids to help build those assets. We're doing a music program, art, yoga. Grandparents raising grandchildren. It's a growing population, really needs support. We provide monthly meetings for them, education meetings, and then Angelica facilitates a support group as well. And then the reason we're here, Circle of Security Parenting, we're going to show a very short video, which is going to give a nice overview of what Circle of Security Parenting is. And then Alex told me what to do. He told me to, let's see. He knows that I need him. Oh. How do I get on here? Thank you.
Parents, we all wonder if we're getting it right. We want to know we're meeting our children's needs, helping them grow, and giving them all that we can. We try to combine our own experience of being parented with the advice of others and our own instincts and beliefs about what is best. And still, we so often worry that we're not succeeding. In a world that is always offering the next best parenting solution, the Circle of Security is based on decades of attachment research. Unlike many behavioral perspectives, it offers relationship tools to provide a new way of understanding your children's needs, creating lasting security for them and more satisfaction for you. The Circle graphic has been created to help you know what to look for so you can read your children's behavior to guide you in meeting their needs. It's really not complicated. People of all ages have attachment needs. These needs can be divided in 3 ways. Let's look at this child. First, he needs to know the freedom and confidence to go out and explore his world. Second, he needs to feel assured that whenever he's ready, he can come back for comfort and protection. Third, he needs his caregiver to be in charge in a kind way. 3 basic needs that can be thought of as going out on the circle, coming in on the circle, and hands on the circle. Let's have a look in more detail. Feeling safe and supported, our children want to discover their world. When going out, they need to know that their exploration is encouraged, that we're right there watching over them, delighting in them, offering help when needed, and ready to enjoy their new adventures with them. And when they're coming in, they need us to refill their emotional cup. This means organizing their emotions and letting them know we are delighted to welcome them back, protect, comfort, and understand them. The key for us as parents is to remain strong and kind while knowing when to encourage their going out into the world and how to be available to welcome them back to us. It's crucial that we learn to identify our children's needs like this, because misreading them, or worse, missing them altogether, can cause pain and frustration. We all know how uncomfortable it can be to be held too close when we want to be out exploring, or kept at a distance when we need emotional support, or simply to be without someone who is bigger, stronger, wiser and kind, who we can trust to understand what we need when we're feeling lost, confused, or out of control. When a child misbehaves, the cause is often rooted in how safe and secure they're feeling. So it's not surprising that they behave well when a parent learns to tune into their child's needs on the circle in this way. And because our needs on the circle never disappear, Learning to read cues can help you better understand and meet the needs of people of all ages, including your own. So, that's all there is to it. Just know that at any given moment, your child is somewhere on the circle asking you to meet a need. Support my going out. Welcome my coming in. Be the hands that keep me safe by staying in charge and committed to helping me feel connected. And please remember this. There's no such thing as perfect parenting. At Circle of Security, we've come to realize that good enough is, well, good enough. All of us are going to miss needs on the circle time and again. Welcome to the club. But if we meet our children's needs enough of the time, the results will be happier, healthier, more secure children, and parents too.
Yep, perfect, right there.
When I started drinking warm water to get rid of my wrinkles, my friends laughed at me. But when they saw how fast I was changing, they started doing it themselves. You've probably heard that as you get older, your skin will never...
What are you trying to say?
Oh
my. Okay.
To get rid of wrinkles.
So I hope everyone enjoyed that brief overview video. We chose that one to share tonight because it really touches upon a lot of the key concepts of the Circle of Security program. And like I said, gives just a brief overview of what the program entails. So now we're going to talk about how we've been offering this program in Enfield. So since 2018, when we became trained facilitators, we have led approximately 200 parents and caregivers through the series. The program is free to all participants. The program runs 8 weeks. We meet for roughly an hour and a half. And during that time, while we're meeting, there is always childcare available for parents, dinner to go. And so we really try to make it as accommodating as possible for families and very stress-free. In terms of the group size, we really like to keep it at a maximum of 12 participants just to allow for time for discussion. And then in terms of being part of the program, we do have a brief intake process that participants do with either myself, Lisa, or Angelica, just so that they have an understanding of what the program is all about and to make sure that the program is a good fit, because we certainly don't want any parent to take the program that maybe has greater needs that could maybe benefit from a more intensive program. And if that were the case, then we would refer them to Angelica to then work with her. You're supposed to push it. I'm supposed to push it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so upon completion of the Circle of Security program, each participant receives a certificate of completion, their choice of one of our amazing parenting books that we did not write, a book for their child, a special Bigger, Stronger, Wiser, Kind refrigerator magnet just for the occasional reminders about how to support a secure attachment with their children, and a Circle Security tote bag to hold all their swag. Next. And also at the end of our Circle of Security program, we also ask that all the participants complete a survey for us, just to let us know how they felt about the program, what worked best for them, what they feel is most useful for them. And we've gotten a lot of wonderful feedback from participants, ranging from new parents who are just getting started in their parenting journey, the seasoned parents who maybe have older children, and even grandparents who are raising their grandchildren have found this program very beneficial. And a lot of them have noticed also that it's a program that you cannot just use with your own children, but they found it is relevant to all relationships. And this is a fabulous picture of our most recent graduating class.
Hey, I recognize that guy in there.
Last week.
Do you notice anyone familiar?
Anyone familiar in there?
So for the parenting part, so there's also an adaptation to the for the teachers, educators in their classroom settings. So as we know, right, so early childhood is a critical time for development in the early childhood settings. Therefore, children need to develop a wide range of skills from cognitive to social and emotional competence to support their success in school. This approach gives a reflective model on caregiver relationships in the classroom settings where we invite teachers and educators to see themselves as an attachment figure to their students, which is a shift from an educational state of mind to a reflection state of mind, which can certainly be challenging. However, with the Circles of Security approach, the intention is knowing that when parents are not present, children need to have someone who they know and trust and they can meet their needs so they can feel safe and secure. While we conduct this approach with the teachers and educators, we also provide them with opportunities to implement this, the examples and the experience while they're in the classroom. So, yeah.
And this is the graphic for the classroom model, just to give you an idea. So
Yeah.
we started out with the one circle for the parent, and so this is the teacher attending to all the children in the classroom. So a lot of circles and a lot of needs, right?
We had started, so again, with partnership with Jacqueline, we started providing this course to 13 teachers, Head Start teachers, teacher assistants, and support staff at Stowe. And then over time, we developed and we branched out to the ECDC staff, meaning we trained some infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and school agers. And it's still ongoing. So, yeah. So here we have some pictures with the Stowe staff, and that Erin and Lisa conducted, and then
Yes.
recently, still ongoing with the with ECDC staff. And these are some staff's testimonies that they have shared similarly to the ones that we conduct with the parents. They give their feedback on how we are able to provide the felicitation if we're, if we're being also good enough at presenting them, but also how it impacts their own state of mind, as well as how they can change how they look at the approach in the classroom. So yeah.
There's that. So I know this is kind of small and hard to read, but we do have our next series will begin on Monday, March 31st. It will be from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Stowe Early Learning Center. So if anyone is interested in signing up, we do outreach through Parent Square. We have community partnerships, Enfield Food Shelf, the library, social services. And actually, we've done some work with a few of the pediatric offices in Enfield, so our flyer is hanging up there as well. So it's really nice. They can just scan the QR code, and then we'll receive an inquiry that there's a parent interested in learning more, and so then we'll reach out to them to touch base. And so we wanted to end with this final clip. For those of you who have been to the Stowe Early Learning Center recently, may have noticed throughout the building, there's many of these pictures, clip arts throughout the building, and I had put them up as, in partnership with Jacqueline Valley, as a reminder for the teachers and the staff as they're going through the building. And so this one I thought really kind of highlighted our classroom approach model, just because when we look at it, oftentimes we focus on the really challenging behavior and we miss the need, right? The need on the circle. And so, and in that moment, the child is looking for that caregiver to be the bigger, stronger, wiser, kind, and committed person that they need. So I just thought that one was really a good ending. So any questions?
Jean?
I just want to first, before they get into asking questions, I want to thank you ladies for an excellent presentation on Circle of Security. I saw it with Dr. Calnan, back in December, and we loved it, and this is why we wanted you to come and do the presentation for the board and for the community. But I also feel it's nice to know that parents and caregivers and teachers in our community can utilize this resourceful tool, it sounds wonderful, and to support their understanding of their child's emotions and how to read those emotions and their needs in a safe and secure way. I love that motto. I love that one. Would like to thank Cindy for coming out and doing her presentation for the Enfield Social Services. Thank you. That was very informative. And thank you, Amy, for speaking about the FRCs. That was also helpful. So thank you, ladies. Great job.
Mr. Ryder?
So to echo what Jean said, I want to thank Enfield, Amy, and Aaron at FRC for being here. So you mentioned, I just have two quick questions. You mentioned Monday, March 31st is the next Circle of Security class. Is that something that you do annually around that time each year? Is it twice a year, et cetera? And my second question is, could we get a copy of your PowerPoint? Because we're often asked questions throughout the community. Oh, I saw this thing on your board meeting a couple weeks ago, and if we had that as a reference, we could say, oh yeah, so reach out to X, Y, or Z.
And so as far as the classes, they are ongoing. So typically we run them roughly 4 times a year, so quarterly. So we just finished our winter series, so now we'll be starting the spring series.
Ms.
And we'll
Lang?
get the PowerPoint. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for being here. Amy, you dated me a little bit on those days, but exciting times. You've done a lot of good work here in Enfield, and thank you for staying with us. As far as the Circle of Security, I think that I often say how hard social media is on our kids, but it's got to be very hard on our parents. Like, I started having kids in '99. Internet wasn't a thing. I had a book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, and then I had a book, and like I would go through that book. Thank goodness I didn't have the internet, because I would probably self-diagnose my kids with a million things if I had the internet. The other thing that moms and dads and caregivers have today are all the vloggers that tell you how you should parent, and that's got to be frustrating, because as a parent, a caregiver, you're always second-guessing yourself, right? And I remember leaving the hospital and a nurse saying to me, your baby doesn't know that you don't know what you're doing. So I was like, okay, we can do this, right? I appreciate the support that you offer the parents, and it sounds like there's also a holistic approach, and you offer additional services where there might be a little tougher situations for different home situations of more challenging for a child or a family situation. So I appreciate those approaches, and I appreciate the support that you do give the families, no matter what type of family that is involved in our, especially our early childhood programs in the school. So we do really good work, and we have really caring people that work here, and I really appreciate the work you do, so thank you. Oh, can I ask one more question? For your Circle of Security, what age, do you have for parents? Because honestly, I really thought parenting teenagers, heck, that was really hard. I used to always say, when my kids are teenagers, it's going to be so much easier. And it was that is not for, raising teenagers is not for the faint of heart. So do you have people with kids that are not maybe so young, but maybe kids that are getting to adolescence into the teen years, or?
So I mean, the model does say it's for infants up to age 6, but I will say, having teenagers myself, I do use this with them. And so obviously this, like they said in the video, the circle never ends, right? I call my mom every morning to check in with her, right?
That's why it's a circle.
It is, yes. And so it's the same is true for our kids. The circle never ends for them. It just looks different. The way that we delight in them is going to look different than it does for little ones. I mean, I will say that during the times that we meet, we do watch videos, and those videos do show younger children. But we certainly can tailor the conversation. Just for example, this last group that we had, there was a mom that had a 2-year-old and a 19-year-old.
Right.
And so oftentimes she brought up examples of the 19-year-old. And so we really tried to be with her in that and help her with those situations.
Yeah, it is really
And
tough.
it's honestly, like Lisa said, you can apply it to all relationships.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we apply it to friendships. I mean, we
Sure.
use the language, you know, at
Yeah.
work all the time. I mean, once you know the circle, you can't stop
Right.
seeing it.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
And there actually is a circle for teens.
There
And
is.
yeah, so it can certainly be tailored. And we often talk about the crosswalk between a toddler and a teen because it's very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's true. And you never expect that, right? That when they get older, that you're going to be more stressed, just emotional stress instead of that physical stress. So, but thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ms. Pickett?
So first, thank you. I am so appreciative of the work that you do. I know a lot of the work that you do. Cindy, I know that we've met, so I'm glad that you came tonight and shared an overview of social services. It has me thinking a lot about our strategic planning that we're engaging in as a district. We're in infancy, I think, stages or beginning stages, maybe not infancy. But I think a large concern and maybe area for us to look at is behavior response systems, and so much of what you shared of programming and Circle of Security to me make connections to our work. And I know we already partner, but I think with strategic planning, pre-referendum work, there's so many opportunities to really evaluate and assess how are we partnering, where are there opportunities for us to strengthen and maybe do it more intentionally, and how can we maybe even reimagine. I know there's impact on how we co-locate space as far as how buildings get tended to with grants, so even thinking strategically about how we ensure and offer access to families to your services through kind of our reimagining work. So I just wanted to put that in space. I also just wanted to say I'm trained as a Circle of Security trainer back in the day, and so I can say how powerful it is professionally with families that I've touched, doing this work that you all are doing. But also personally, I would say that it is something that is lifelong. You mentioned having connections to your mom and still call, me too. I also just want to say that this conversation has me thinking about adult wellness, that you can't tend to that circle if the adult's not well. So although we are here talking about students, the family component is huge. And so thinking about how do we ensure, family wellness and adult wellness, also has me thinking that we do have multiple partners as a district. I know we partner with CHR for some of our school-based health center services, so I think in kind of assessing our partnerships and our needs and that reimagining work, this could be an opportunity to really think about what services do we need as far as crisis response, how do we think intentionally about building the staffing and supports we need through our support services. I have a lot that I want to say, and I'm going to try to make some direct connections to later content for essence of time. But I just want to thank you for a couple things that you did intentionally, I think, in your presentation that I think matters. Thank you for shouting out our school partnership and leadership at Stowe and Henry Barnard. Also our family partnership and community partnership. It takes a village to do this work. So I think it's really important for us to remember that we are hubs for families, and we do touch a lot of people in our community, which has me thinking of the support that you mentioned around grandparents. I know one of the grandparents that you are touching through that work. She talks so highly about what that provides for her, and that is a unique need in our community, but a growing need. And so I appreciate that support. I will leave with some questions and considerations or maybe thoughts, no need to answer things. One is, again, a reminder that we need to be thinking about space and how we co-locate and partner and think strategically about that long-term and short-term. I am interested to know at Stowe which food and nutrition services that you're servicing and how we partner like with our nutrition services and things like that. If there's not partnership, whatever that means, I'd just like to know more about that. I'd also like to know more about our diversion program. I'm interested to know EPS's role on that work, outcomes for students. So I know we get notified of 911 transports and things like that, and disciplinary things. So I think to understand the full continuum and impact and outcomes for kiddos, it'd be helpful to know what that full circle looks like. And I think it connects to some work that we're hearing around restorative work that Andy's doing. And so thinking about how do we best support that along with the crisis response piece. I know I've mentioned in my remarks before the state plan that we have to submit. So it's nice to know that we have a partnership with you all. I've seen you all respond to some like unfortunate staff deaths, things like that. So I know that you are there to support us. And again, just opportunities to think smarter about that. My last couple of things that I'm leaving with wonders is, have you considered offering Circle of Security kind of training like staff alongside families together? I think behavior can be such a challenging topic. And I think the reality is we have staff who are struggling with unique needs and challenging needs in classrooms. It's a common issue. I'll also say, and I'll take this, I don't think it's a great thing that we do in teacher prep as far as talking about classroom management and the importance of routine, structures, and these things. So I don't blame any person who's struggling with behavior in classroom settings or at home. And so I think just how powerful it could be for families and staff to learn alongside each other and normalizing the conversation and to learn from each other about like, what does it look like at home? What does it look like? And develop some common language and common expectations. I think just seeing outcomes for students, that could be really powerful. And I really loved Tina's comment about babies don't know, so I'm going to end with my own parenting advice. Mine comes from an old colleague, and she told me once that a newborn has no idea the song that you're singing, so sing whatever song makes you happy, and they also don't know the words that you're saying, so you can say whatever lovely words you would like to include in that song. So thank you so much. I appreciate this partnership. I'm excited to see how we can grow.
Thanks, Amanda. Dr. Callen?
So thank you, folks, for coming by and talking to us a little bit. I just had not so much questions, but a few comments that I had prepared. And some of these are just going to basically reinforce what you've said already. But I just wanted to get back to the question of who would benefit from Circle of Security. And without being flippant, I think the answer is probably every family from time to time. We all hit those challenges, those really tough moments. We throw up our hands and we just feel like we're just losing control. Being a parent certainly isn't easy. As long as children are endowed with a free will, conflict is inevitable. So what parents cannot reasonably seek to do is to avoid conflict. That's probably not a good idea anyway. What they can do is identify the areas of disconnect that may be present with respect to what the child needs emotionally on the one hand and what the parent is inclined to offer on the other. And such attunement can then lead the way to a richer and more nurturing relationship, a safe, stable, and nurturing relationship. And that's really what Circle of Security is designed to do, to identify the meaning behind the child's behavior in relation to the expectations of the parents, and to help the parents address any mismatch. So whether supporting the parent in their efforts to offer a safe haven, to provide protection, or a secure base to support exploration, Circle of Security is really, in effect, helping the parents to instill in their child the capacity for resilience. And there are so many, I was thinking about what am I going to say? I'm going to talk about the benefits of Circle of Security. And if I talked about all the benefits, we'd be here all night. So I just wanted to focus on that one idea of resilience. Because in this world of trauma and stress, I think it becomes extremely pertinent. The word resilience is sort of bounced around so often now that it's kind of losing its meaning. But I think the best definition that I have gotten about resilience is the capacity to confront adversity in a healthy and adaptive manner. The capacity to confront adversity in a healthy and adaptive manner. It's the faculty that best protects the child from the worst effects of trauma. And as we all know, serious trauma is so alarmingly common in childhood. I think you folks certainly are familiar with the ACEs study. It was a study that was done back in the 1960s, and it was really revolutionary. The study found that trauma is a lot more common in childhood than we had ever previously really suspected. For example, about a little more than 1 in every 4 child experiences child abuse. A little bit more than 1 in every 4. And only a little bit less than 1 in 4 experiences sexual abuse. And those numbers are just mind-boggling. And the ACEs study looked at, I think, around a total of 11 types of trauma, including sexual and physical abuse. And the finding was always the same. For any given type of trauma, the incidence of that particular type of trauma was extraordinarily high. So much so, in fact, that when the study originally came out, a lot of people just didn't believe it. They thought, these numbers can't be right. But then subsequent studies came out that proved that indeed trauma is a very, very commonplace event in childhood. In fact, there was just an article, I'm not sure if any of you saw it, there was an article in the New York Times Sunday edition in the opinion piece about this very subject, about how common childhood trauma really is. And it's a great article, so if you have it, then I'd really advise you to read it. So the important thing to remember is that kids exposed to trauma can be kept on a healthy developmental trajectory, if they are endowed with the capacity for resilience. But resilience is not innate. It's acquired, it's learned, and it grows directly out of a safe, stable, nurturing relationship with a caring adult. It is just that kind of relationship that Circle of Security seeks to promote and protect, and to help our children not only to overcome future adversity later in their lives, but to thrive in this very challenging world that we live in. So I just want to conclude by thanking you guys so much. Cindy, I think you have a fantastic team here. They are, I know them, they are extremely well-versed in the Circle of Security. They know their work very, very well. They're very passionate about their work. And I will say that the Family Resource Center people are probably among the most compassionate people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. And I'm really worried about what's going on at the state capitol, because I kind of worry about what's going to happen to funding to the Family Resource Center. And if that should ever be compromised, I think that would be a real tragedy. So I'll end just by asking you folks to give, for the folks that are watching, your contact information again, so that they can get in touch with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Cover?
All right. Having recently gone through the program, I'll say I think you guys did a stellar job just giving an overview. I think it's definitely a useful resource. I know it's a simple model. You can expand it as appropriate. I think the classes do a good job with blending instruction and facilitating discussion and stuff like that. And I think, just to echo, like as you guys highlighted, there's a lot of accommodations between food, childcare, and then it's provided at no cost to parents. So it's definitely a good resource to have out there. You know, I encourage people to look into it, and I hope you guys are able to keep it going. So once again, thank you.
Dean, do you want to, you good?
Well, my questions were answered, well, they were asked by others, but I do want to remember, Ms. Morales, that my son went through the Family Resource Center 2 years ago, something like that, right? And he really did enjoy his time there. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Mr. Ryder.
I just want to add one thing. So we, as a family, go to Pioneer Valley Pediatrics, and I just wanted to say I've consistently seen Amy and Aaron's faces on flyers there for 13 years. So I know there's a lot of pediatricians in town as well where you might see some of this literature. So it's not just a matter of reaching out to us to share what they're about to send to us, but you should look and ask your pediatricians about this, because I've seen your flyers all over town, including specifically the Circle of Security flyer recently. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for an excellent presentation. And thank you for the amazing work that you guys do over there. I wish that you had Circle Security when my kids were teeny tiny. But if you ever have the, inclination to do a teenage one, I'll sign up for that one for sure.
Hoping that they were going to make a whole teenage presentation.
Yeah. That'll capture all the parents who didn't get the privilege of being able to join up for Circle of Security recently.
If
you need examples.
Thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate it. And
Thank you.
thank you for the hard work you do. Okay. All right. Number 7, Superintendent's Report.
All right, let's kick it off with the student representatives.
Hello, everyone, and I wanted to start off by saying Happy International Women's Month. I also wanted to give a big shout out and congratulations to Ethan Bonaducci, who just won the Connecticut State Opening for wrestling, and also made history by being the first Eagle to win the New England Open for wrestling. So congratulations to him. I have a few Class of 2025 stuff. Class of 2025 is hosting a badminton tournament for all grades after school this Thursday and Friday. To play, it's going to be about $5. We're also doing a gift card raffle, which is due Thursday, March 13th. You can give it to Miss Bender or Miss Siniglio. I'm pretty sure that the gift card raffle can be used for prom expenses and just senior stuff. The senior prom theme was released. It's The Great Gatsby. It's going to be May 23rd from 6 to 10 at the Basketball Hall of Fame. Super excited, so get ready to purchase your tickets. We also had progress reports come out March 6th, so the semester is going by fast. GSA also is having their first ever summit on March 25th, so make sure you get your permission slips if you're able to go. The permission slips will go to Ms. Catuccio by March 14th. We're also meeting with Suffield as well as the EHS Student Advocacy Group, and Babsy will be there because we're going to be talking about intersectionality between race and sexuality. So if you guys can make it, that would be really helpful. We also have SAT Day coming up on April 4th, and that night, April 4th and 5th, will be the Lamplighters performance. So they're playing Cinderella, so get your tickets soon. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And we have another athletic accomplishment. As you guys may know, Enfield High doesn't have a girls hockey team, but Enfield players do play for the Suffield co-op team. And a sophomore, Grace Boholski, had made all conference, so congrats to her. There will be teacher-parent conferences at 12:30 this Wednesday and 5:45 on this Thursday. Sign-ups have already completed, but if you are signed up, be sure, don't forget. Enfield Culinary won state for the first time in 9 years and will now compete in nationals in Baltimore on the weekend of May 2nd, so congrats to them. There will be a music fest this Saturday at 3:30 p.m. I believe it's at Enfield High, but the Enfield High Band, JFK, and the Interschool Orchestra Band and Choir will be performing. Free admission for those who are interested in attending. Spring sports begin in about 2 weeks on the 22nd. So athletes, if you're playing a spring sport, make sure to be signed up for final forms and have your physicals up to date by March 22nd. Junior prom is on March 28th at Twin Hills Country Club. The dance will begin at 6 o'clock. So if you are attending, be sure to stay tuned for updates on that. The Blues and Beyond Assembly went pretty well. There was great enthusiasm and energy from the students. We had only great feedback from the attendees. There will be a class of 2028 D'Angelo's fundraiser tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., so be sure to attend if you can. And finally, Buzz Robotics won their first event of the season at the Greater Boston District event. They achieved a gold medal and the Spirit Award by helping other teams, events, and having overall great team spirit. So congrats to them, and their next competition is at Hartford Public on March 29th and March 30th. And that's what I have for tonight.
Okay. You guys took all my things I was going to say tonight.
I was just going to say the same thing. I'm sitting here going down my list. I'm like, check, done, check, done. So the only thing, a few things that I'd like to add. Obviously, March is Board of Education Appreciation Month, so obviously we're in March, and I do want to send along our appreciation to you as a board and as individual board members. I didn't want you to think that we forgot about you, but we will do a larger celebration at the next board meeting on March 25th, just so you're aware. To piggyback on the pre-K through 5 conferences tomorrow, the high school has their evening conferences on March 13th, and JFK has their evening conferences on March 19th. So that should wrap up all the conference information. I would like to take this time to publicly thank every single person who, for those who are unaware, over the course of 2 school days, we moved 2 entire pre-K classrooms. And if you have ever seen a pre-K classroom, we're not talking about a small amount of material. So a very large thank you to Mark Garr and all of the buildings and grounds guys that came over and moved everything for us. They worked all day Friday. They came in on Saturday. They wrapped it up on Monday. Those 2 classrooms are up and running, and I was over there today. And the ladies are just ecstatic about their new homes. They love it where they are. Very happy for them. And that it's actually allowing us some additional space. So big thank you to everybody who helped to take part in that, as well as Enfield Street School, who just had this sort of thrust upon them. Mr. Lord and his staff have been nothing but welcoming to the folks that have gone over there. Let's see, you did that one. You did that one. Update related to the public schools vision of the graduate. You will have a work continues. We are getting faculty. There will be presentations at faculty meetings, and staff input is going to be collected. I've slated May 27th for Michelle Middleton to be coming to provide us with an update related to vision of the graduate, so we should have it ready to go for then. The Professional Development and Evaluation Committee is actually in the process of gathering staff input related to how the new evaluation plan is happening, how well it is running, if there's places for us to improve or get better at. They're going to be collecting some survey information related from staff so that they can begin planning for the next school year. District improvement plan, also moving right along. Basically, 3 large areas have been identified. We're looking at systems and structures across the district. We're looking at academics, but more of reword this to be teaching and learning. And then the last one will be related to culture and climate. Those 3 large areas are going to be broken down into 2 specific goals each, 2 to 3 goals each, and then we'll have data that we'll be collecting throughout the 3 to 5 years so that we can see how we're progressing on it. You'll get more information. We are, I'm not going to say we're in the infancy, but we are very early on in our efforts to make this happen. So that's been slated for probably a summer presentation for you. That will be ready for presentation to you. And lastly, I will just say that the legislature is very active, and I know Representative Sandell is here, and he can attest to the fact that we have all been very active related to it. A lot of communication being sent out of my office to Representative Sandell, Representative Hall, and Senator Kissel related to the specific bills that have been introduced and what, if any, impact they would have on Enfield. So a lot going on across the district. That just as a quick summary for you.
Thank you. All right, number 8, audiences. Okay, so if you're gonna come up, give us your full name and your relationship to the district, and you will get 4 minutes to speak. Okay, so first up is John Santinella.
Good evening, everybody. John Santinella, 1204 Enfield Street, and I am your state representative from the 58th District. And I'm here tonight to talk about some of the things that are going on in the legislature. And yes, Mr. Macchio has been keeping my inbox full. But I want to speak specifically about what has happened with special ed funding. Enfield is going to be receiving $300,000 in additional funds this year to cover the cost of special ed special education. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but it's a moving target. And I wanted to just clear up some misconceptions about what has happened over the last several weeks. You may recall on February 24th, the legislature took up an initiative to fund $40 million of special ed funding across the state. And that night, there was an amendment that was put forward by my Republican colleagues on the House floor to add another $68 million to that fund to bring the total up to $108 million. That evening, on that amendment, the Republicans all voted in favor of that amendment, and all Democrats voted that amendment down, with the exception of one Democrat, and his name is John Santinella. And I brought with me the Journal of the House with the voting that took place that night. If we could have gotten $108 million, $60 million more of extra funding for special ed, I'm all in. As you recall, the governor vetoed that bill. Line item vetoed because there are issues with the spending cap, and there's a question about whether or not there is actually another $68 million in the budget that we could spend on special ed. And so we had the option of writing a new piece of legislation or overriding the governor's veto. And we chose not to thumb our nose at the governor and wrote a new piece of legislation that would have allowed us to take the $40 million that we wanted to spend off the budget in a separate account and spend it on special ed. So on March 5th, the same piece of legislation with the same numbers with some specificity of where the money was going to come from was put in front of the House. And my Republican colleagues again tried to introduce a measure to spend another $68 million. I did not vote with them that time because it was going to get vetoed again. The governor was very clear. He was not going to be able to spend more than that. And rather than push the issue, I voted with all of the other Democrats against the amendment. And then on the final bill, I voted for the $40 million, as did Representative Hall. And here is the Journal from that night with both of our votes. Yet for whatever reason, my colleague, Representative Hall, chose to leave the chamber and then accuse me of not wanting to spend more money on Enfield special education. What compelled her to do that is beyond me. If there was more money, I would have voted for it. And if the legislature can come up with $68 million without impeding the spending cap, which I will not violate, I will vote for it. So I want to be clear to you, because I've come here and I've lectured you about spending more money on our kids, that if there was more money to spend, I would spend it. And I'm not going to be accused of not doing that. And I want you to be clear about that. And so I am happy to be able to report that Representative Hall, Representative Santinella, and Senator Kissel all voted to bring $300,000 to Enfield to fund special education. Thank you.
Okay, Morgan DeFranzo. I hope I said it right. Okay.
She used to sit in Olivia's chair.
I'll seat up there. Am I on? I don't remember.
Is the red light on and you're good?
I can't tell. Morgan DeFranzo, 35 Spruceland Road. Good evening, everyone. I was once a student representative who sat here every other Tuesday at these same exact meetings. These meetings in that role, along with so many other things, including courses and programs, have played a major part in my transition to college being a successful one. Looking back, I realize how much of what I experienced at Enfield High set me up for the future that I'm going towards right now. One of the most impactful courses I took was teen leadership. It wasn't just a class, it was an opportunity to learn more about myself. The skills I developed in this course shaped how I approach challenges this very day. Teen leadership taught me the importance of communication, decision-making, and how to lead with empathy and purpose. These skills are valuable in both my academic and my personal life. Another reason I had such a great high school experience is because I generally enjoyed going to school. Courses like forensics, interior design, and so many more weren't just educational to me. They were exciting. They sparked my curiosity. They gave me a chance to dive into subjects that interested me and made learning feel relevant and engaging. Many of these courses are no longer available. High school should be a place where students are inspired to learn, and I am fortunate to have had that experience. In high school, I made it a point to frequently visit our Career Center, where I had the opportunity to explore various career paths, attend workshops, and listen to guest speakers who shared insights into the world beyond high school. The Career Center was a vital resource that guided me through my high school years and led me to where I am today. And I hope that one day, very soon, students will have that same experience again. Now, as a college student studying to become a teacher, I am studying about the critical importance of funding our public education. I can already see the lack of resources in some areas and how they can deeply affect students and teachers, and I'm witnessing that real impact in my hometown. These opportunities I had didn't just appear out of nowhere. They were a result of funding that enabled these programs and courses. I am hopeful that the 5.57% budget presented to the town council will be approved so that Enfield can begin rebuilding what has been taken away from us. I want all Enfield High students to have the same opportunities that I was able to experience only 2 years ago. I'm so sorry. Enfield must invest in our students now so they can have the experiences they deserve and be ready to succeed beyond high school. I hope the next generation of students can benefit from the same fulfilling high school experience that helped shape me to where I want to be today. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Morgan. That's awesome. Okay. Maureen Griffin.
Maureen Griffin, Abbey Road, Mom. Board of Ed week, not week. Thank you all. I come here and just flap my jaws at you. It takes a couple hours. You guys do a whole heck of a lot more. It's appreciated. Circle of Security, it's a great presentation, and it brings up in my mind something that's I think is very important that Dr. Callan referred to, resilience, how it's not innate. And I just want to speak about that for a minute. We need to challenge the presumption that children are resilient. They're survivors. Presuming resilience takes the weight of safeguarding and providing for our kids off the adult's shoulders and places it onto the child to carry. Resilience comes from being a survivor. But you know what? Some come through the difficulties relatively unscathed. Others bear lifelong scars and functional handicaps. There's a bell curve where, think of a bell curve where the majority of the kids fall. They come out, they're resilient. They can handle most of what they have. You have the extreme where the kids are practically unscathed. And then you have the other extreme where they're truly impacted. And I'm glad that the Circle of Security does the intake to recognize that and to see the child and to say, you need more help. You're not our target, please. And I want to say to the parents out there of the children that are on the extremes, especially the ones that have had the negative impacts, you're not a failure if your child falls outside of the norm, and programs meant for the majority don't work for your child. Don't give up searching for the appropriate diagnosis, appropriate assessments, and for the interventions that your child needs, not what every other child needs. If your child's needs look different, do what your child needs. Not what the peanut gallery wants to tell you to do and judges you based upon what you've had to do for your child. Parenting any child is a humbling experience. Parenting a child with exceptional needs is exceptionally humbling. We need to support people even when we don't understand what they're going through.
Janice Serrato.
Hi, everyone. Happy Board of Education Month. I'm Janice Serrato. I live on Hudson Street. I also am lucky enough to teach at JFK Middle School. So thank you for giving me time to speak. The reason I am speaking is to inform the public how teachers go above and beyond what most people think of as typical teacher duties. I am a proud alumna of Enfield High School, of all the Enfield school systems. My husband, my daughter, and my son are also alumni, and making our connection to this community deeply personal. So I get to teach, I'm blessed to teach at JFK Middle School. I teach design and modeling, STEAM-based. It's a problem-based learning system where students step into roles such as a doctor, a physical therapist, biomedical engineer, medical engineer, or a design engineer. Through this course, students learn all about cerebral palsy. That's our big umbrella. Students then design devices for their patient. Their projects foster empathy and innovation. Students collaborate and compromise as they solve problems and decide on the optimum design. I'm constantly inspired by their teamwork, their eagerness, and their outcomes of my students building their devices that meet criteria, that meet constraints, and actually work, while learning important skills of collaboration and compromise. Tonight, I am recognizing all the incredible dedication, all the dedicated teachers that I am fortunate enough to work with in JFK as well as across the board. We do far more than teach lessons and grade assignments. We go above and beyond every single day, whether it's staying late to tutor a student, advising clubs, or simply offering a listening ear. We create an environment where every child feels seen, supported, and encouraged to grow. Beyond the classroom, we show up in ways that make a difference. We might be screaming for them on the sidelines. We might be, we dedicate our time to run clubs, to spark creativity and leadership. We volunteer at dances and chaperone field trips. Our presence at these events sends a powerful message to our students. You matter. We care about you. Not just as learners, though, but as individuals with unique talents, dreams, and abilities. So my contribution to JFK, besides being a teacher, I'm a PTO liaison. I attend monthly PTO meetings to strengthen that bond between parents and teachers. I take that opportunity to share PTO initiatives with staff and students while providing parents a direct point of contact for collaboration and support. I'm also a LEAPS advisor, and in that case, I support students and families. Whether I'm making home visits or scheduling parent-teacher conferences for families lacking technology access, or simply checking in with a phone call, I'm committed to ensuring that students have the support that they need. So all of the teachers that I teach with, all of the teachers that I have taught with, feel the same way. Teachers and staff care. We care through our daily actions. I'm not the only teacher that goes this extra mile. The unwavering commitment of our educators shape the hearts of our schools. We show our students strong support systems that are behind them. Enfield schools don't just prepare students for the next grade, we prepare them for life by modeling kindness, resilience, and teamwork. But in closing, to all my colleagues, thank you. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your hard work and your professionalism that makes us so strong. I'm proud to stand alongside you every step of the way as part of the Enfield school system. And Board of Education, I can't thank you enough for all that you have to do for us. So thank you. Happy Board of Education Month. Thanks.
Okay, that is end of audiences. Next up is board member comments. Who would like to go first? Ms. Pickett?
Tonight was thank you to everybody who came and spoke. Thank you to the presentation. I think just really important information. So, Janet, neighbor, thank you for your commitment to our community. I know we have the best staff. Hearing about you personally as a PTO liaison and your LEAP work, that's new to me. I know you also do Invention Convention and a lot of other things. Okay, well, I thought that was coming back. Okay, so maybe I'm misspeaking, but you did that. So this is a demonstration of our staff always being humble and underselling just how amazing they actually are. But I think it really does demonstrate the partnership that it takes, again, building off the Circle Security, our community partners, but truly the staff partnership. And thank you for highlighting that tonight. Morgan, it's like getting goosebumps. It's so nice to see students come back. I hope to actually see you in our classroom someday, P.S. Thank you for highlighting impact, teen leadership, the course cuts, the career center. Teen leadership is in our budget, so we need town council to support our budget for that to return. Unfortunately, much of the course impact and career center is not part of that proposed budget, but I agree, we do need it. I'm going to keep pushing for that in our strategic planning. Again, I hope to see you back. I want to thank Representative Santinella for his civics lesson, Accurate Information Matters. I do want to clarify that this is a one-time payment for this budget. It doesn't impact our proposed budget for next year, is my understanding. Perfect. I want to thank you, Steve, for your continued weekly updates. I really look forward to this conversation and next steps hearing about our strategic planning. Our schools need investment. We can't sugarcoat our needs, and I think we need to be honest about those needs and how we're understanding those in our goals and our plannings, and what it takes to truly meet the needs of our district. I'm also excited to see the continued work with the Vision of a Graduate. I think that this nicely aligns with that third area that you outlined around climate and culture. So again, very excited to hear more about that. As we heard earlier this evening in the Circle of Security presentation and in Ms. Griffin's comments, behavior is complex and it can often be misunderstood. So I want to thank you, Ms. Griffin, for your bravery in openly sharing and reminding us the importance of humanity. I believe it's critical to be informed and careful when discussing such a unique and complex topic like behavior. I also believe that those in power to make decisions should have a level of understanding about student behavior so they can make decisions and approve resources for supports. I wonder if it would be helpful to share these behavioral resources and training with some of our town leadership. I've heard there's interest from town elected leaders in military-style schools. These are dangerous solutions to propose when it's obvious that there's a significant lack of understanding in student adolescent behavior. This ignorant behavior is very dangerous for any decision maker to make. I would share that it's a lot more cost-effective and efficient for our students if we adequately fund our overall supports in our district. We have an opportune time through our pre-referendum committee and strategic planning to really think about what is our continuum of behavior supports. How do we support our students struggling with behavior for a multitude of reasons? We need a comprehensive and intentional plan, and we need our town to understand that. I'm also concerned about personnel discussions being held or had at our town council meetings, and I hope that that is discontinued. I am concerned about our staffing, so I hope that there is some information shared about retention data. I think we need to be thinking about how we're supporting staff and adult wellness, and how that is part of our planning as well. I do know there's going to be official updates later in our committees, but I'd like to take a moment to share some reflections, especially since you, Mr. Macchio, referenced the integrated program move to Stowe. The pre-referendum committee, I'll be honest, I was very apprehensive. I think I shared publicly my concerns about that committee when it was formed. But I want to also share publicly that I am hopeful for this committee, and I believe that we are on a productive path. We are touring schools. We're having some discussions. We're waiting for some important next steps. But I think it would be remiss if we did not have a conversation and stress the importance of our school maintenance and the condition of our buildings now and in the future. The Stowe integrated program was forced to make a huge change. I want to remind the town that our buildings only qualify for state funding if we have adequate school programming. The lack of prioritizing educational spaces is very concerning. We shouldn't be shuffling kids, staff, and school materials, especially our most vulnerable students with IEPs. The pre-ref committee has an opportune time again to think about how we embed services within our schools for rich collaboration and understanding the impact it has on the amount of educational spaces in our buildings for state grants. I also do want to thank the staff who assisted with that move. the town staff, the integrated staff, and Enfield Street school staff. As a parent, I see kiddos leaving, and I think they were first graders, come out of the school and be like, it's Read Across America. We get to read to the new preschoolers. So that just demonstrates the building of community and the thoughtfulness around that. So thank you to those involved. I do also want to share, because I don't think it's one of the liaison reports that we report on because we are not on that committee, but there is a public safety meeting on March 12th that I do have some concerns about the agenda item, especially since board is not represented. I would share that any discussion around ICE that should not involve EPS, and if agenda items do include school town security, that we should potentially be members of that committee. I'd also like to have an update on the Route 5 signs. Has the school zone signs for Route 5 been addressed in joint security or public safety? Has the cost been determined, and has it been rejected to be paid by the town?
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Mr. Coburn?
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So some of what I'm about to say was already mentioned either by the superintendent or Representative Denauld. But I did want to share a quote from Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, that goes, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." History was made by one Enfield wrestler who captured the New England Championship. Senior Ethan Bonaducci became the first grappler from the town to win a weight class at the regional competition in Rhode Island this past weekend. He will continue on to the 36th Annual High School Nationals in Virginia Beach later this month. Congratulations and good luck to the student athlete. I also did want to congratulate at the federal level, our newest Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon from Connecticut, and also former CEO of WWE. I did want to address that numerous constituents have reached out about navigating executive orders and their relation to education and funding. I want to affirm that the board and the superintendent continue to monitor publications, and we are remaining flexible, and we are using various resources to interpret what and how as things may affect the Enfield School District. There remains many layers of state law, regulations, and policies for us to consider as well in between federal and state. In that note, and also addressed by the superintendent, it is the legislative season at the state capitol. It's very busy, and we're keeping an eye on various bills and proposals currently going through the process. Last week, I had the pleasure of being a guest reader over at the Henry Barnard School. It was a rewarding experience, and it was nice to attempt to bestow the importance of reading to some of our youngest learners. And also already mentioned, but I just want to wish my counterparts up here, both locally and across the country, a happy Board of Education appreciation. Thank you.
Mr. Coburn. Mr. Ryder?
Just a couple things this week. First of all, I want to thank State Rep Santinella, Morgan, our former student rep, Maureen Griffin, and Ms. Serrato from JFK for speaking tonight. Related to how you can get involved as a parent, just show up. It's not easy when parents work 9 to 5, or one of the parents works during the day and the other at night, and it's two ships passing in the night. But just do what you can to be involved in our students' affairs, whether that's joining a PTO or just going to one event each school year, for each of your children. It means a lot to our students. It means a lot to our children, and that's something that I've done since my daughter first stepped into Hazardville Memorial School as a kindergartner. And it's something that I've been proud of, my entire tenure on the board and before that. Just do what you can do to get involved. Make sure you download Parent Square. Just know what's going on. Just like being able to ask your kids, I saw that it's Read Across America Week. Has anybody stopped by your classroom? Like Mr. Kobler did, I signed up, I'll be at Hazardville next week. And all of us have done it. It's just nice to know, to relate to them outside of a video game or outside of a current film or TV show that you might have seen about their school day. I mean, this is kind of like their jobs. This is their 9 to 5. Their 9 to 5 is 7 to 3, and it's a lot. They don't get to just come home some days and be a kid. As they get older, they have homework, or they have finals to study for, or the pressure of SATs in a couple of weeks, and they're going to do great. But it's a lot. And it's not just, what you have to do at work or a meeting or a project that you have to prepare. They do this day in and day out, and the schedule's grueling and it's grinding, and we have a couple more weeks, and then we get a little reprieve for April break, and then after that it's 8 weeks, and then we get summer. But just kind of knowing what's going on in their day beyond what's going on in your life, in your, in your family, whether you're visiting the grandparents this weekend or you're going to go see them in a few weeks for Easter, like, it's every day. So even if it's just asking questions or downloading Parent Square or visiting Enfield PTO and asking a few questions about their day every now and again, I know it really means a lot to my two kids, and they've seen Dad be pretty involved over the last their whole lives. So it's just a lot. So that's something that I would ask people to do. Like, for example, I'll be at Enfield High this week for parent-teacher conferences on Thursday. We haven't had spring conferences in a while. I'll be at JFK next week on Wednesday, for meetings. And it's just something that I told some of our board members and our teachers at JFK. I was walking around for my parent-teacher conferences, and there was like me and a handful of other parents, and I'd run into staff, and they're like, yeah, and you guys aren't the ones that we need to talk with. Like, you're the ones that we see all the time, whether it's Mrs. So-and-so who's also involved in this in town, or just, if you can, just show the kids that you care about their jobs, and that's what school is to them. Outside of school, I just wanted to mention that another thing I'm involved with in town is the Parent Leadership Academy Enfield Townwide Tag Sale, which, as you know, or if you're not familiar with, we've been doing this for 15 years. I've been involved for 11 years. You donate $25 to the Enfield Food Shelf. You get a lawn sign, it gets dropped in your yard on Saturday, May 17th. We'll have 100 to 130 addresses on a map that we pass out and share through social media, or you can pick it up at the local Enfield libraries. And, over the years, we've done over 900 tag sales, which has raised over 9,000 meals, for our Enfield families, and that's important too. So you can look on Facebook or Instagram, Enfield Townwide Tag Sale, or you can visit enfieldpto.com/ETWTS for Enfield Townwide Tag Sale, and you can register online. So I just wanted to give a shout out to my partner in that, Leslie Lawler, as well as all the other PLA graduates that have helped us out putting signs out every year. Again, very worthwhile cause. We do pick up the signs and we reuse them each year. I know some families have been on the map and then they put the sign in their backyard and we go to pick them up and they're gone. We do reuse the signs. We don't, every nickel that's raised goes straight to the food shelf, so we don't have like a sign fund. So please just leave your signs out. We'll come scoop them up later that same weekend. So just a quick note about that. And speaking of Parent Leadership Academy, several of us spoke at a class last Thursday. Miss Tina was there, Miss Charlotte was there, Gina Sakala from the town council, one of our registrar of voters was there, another town councilor was there early but then had to leave for another meeting, and we had a great conversation. We got to meet the parents of class 18, I believe. I was a member of the class of 2014, which was class 7 at the time. Obviously, they didn't hold classes for 2 years during COVID. But it was a great chance to get out there and meet some other parents in the community, let them ask questions about, why we do what we do, why some of those on the town council do what they do. And it was very well done, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have done that, and I just wanted to share that as well. It's not easy what we do, what our counterparts every other Monday do, in these same seats as town councilors, and one of the things that always surprises them is that we don't get paid, because sometimes all of us have seen on Facebook over the years, do the job we pay you to do. Well, we're all just parent volunteers like yourselves, and that's why we do what we do. So with a little bit of grace and working together, we can get a lot more done. So thank you for that, and that's all I have for this week. Thank you.
Mr. Blank?
Yep. So I'm also going to congratulate Ethan Bonaducci. One thing I don't think anybody mentioned this evening was that Ethan has been undefeated this whole time. So that is quite a feat. And to Mrs. Serrato's point for many of us townies, when Ethan won his state champion, Coach Jason Flynn, he grew up in town. His wife posted a picture on Facebook, and there was a picture of Ethan hugging Coach Flynn, and the caption said, "My 125-pound state champ hugging his 126-pound state champ." Ethan has done amazing things for Enfield Eagles Wrestling. But what I love the most is that a lot of our coaches in the town of Enfield are not only former players and wrestlers, but they're coaches now, and they gave back to the community and the programs that gave to them. I know everybody's going to have these things on their list like Olivia and Izzy did, but Buzz Robotics, congratulations to them for winning their first event. Thank you to Miss Marr, who also gave us some insight that there was a lot of unforeseeable circumstances, but they were able to pull it out. Congrats to Chef O and his culinary team for bringing home the gold. Also, congratulations to the EHS girls basketball team. They made it to the second round of states. It was a close game in the second round. They did come up short in the end. I watched it during our leadership meeting and kept announcing the score at the end of every quarter. And when I was leaving, we thought you might be able to pull it out. I want to thank Mr. Macchio and your staff, along with Stowe and Enfield Street School, for getting the move over to Enfield Street. I really appreciated it, and I saw the rooms when you showed us the pictures in the leadership meeting, and the parents who went with the flow. Actually, one of the moms in the Parent Leadership Academy, her student is now over at Enfield Street School. You made it as seamless as possible. And it's unfortunate that we had to move them, but everything happens for a reason. And like Ms. Pickett said, it looks like there's some peer modeling going on with the littles over there. So always good things that we can make happen here in EPS. I'm going to circle back on one thing, but I want to thank Representative Santinella for clarifying that funding and that we'd actually be receiving funds. The way I understood it, if the other vote failed with the vetoing, we would never be receiving any funds. And here in Enfield, we're happy to be receiving something. And I appreciate him clearing up those misconceptions. Morgan, it is nice to see you again. We spent many meetings up here together. I think it's great that you can come up here and communicate what teen leadership did for you, the Career Center. It's important for that student voice, for the students that were able to take it. And I hope sooner rather than later we can get those back, because it was a vital part of Enfield High. Ms. Griffin, so when we were talking about Circle of Security, I had a direct line to CU, and all I kept thinking were of 3 letters, RAD, and how that applies. So when you came up and started speaking, I was not surprised, because I was thinking that's kind of what you were thinking and how that Circle of Security would apply to that situation. So you're valid in thinking that way and your feelings. And so I just want you to know that. And Ms. Serrato, I love that you teach STEAM as a woman, right? And it's International Women's Month, so I think that's wonderful. And you have been in this district a long time, but one of the things that always shines about you is your positivity. So I really appreciate you coming to the meeting and outlining how awesome the teachers are and above and beyond that you guys go. I want to circle back to the Parent Leadership Academy. So we were invited to go, and we talked about our journeys as elected officials. Mr. Ryder was also an alum, so he talked about that. Me and Ms. Riley went last year, but this was a different type of class. I felt like we just had like these safe sharing space conversations. Like the way the journey the meeting took was excellent, and there were some concerns about mental health. So there were concerns about CHR and our partnership in Enfield Public Schools. And jump in if you think I need to clarify, and how you might have 2 kids in Enfield Public Schools, and there's a partnership with CHR, and you might have a really good therapist with 1 kid in 1 grade and have a good relationship, but then there's another therapist for a different child who's younger, and you're not just getting that same vibe, and it's not going great with that kid. And so there's just a concern there, and it was a concern like what kind of partnership, what was the correct term they were using? Like, do we pay them, or is it
I want to know if they're like our employees, or I think that's how.
Yeah, our
but
employees.
That's not how it is. We just give CHR the space to hold their CHC.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
CHC.
right.
CHC.
Our MOU is they're not our employees. We provide them with the space and access to the kids so
Right.
that they can provide the services that would be difficult for the parents to be able to obtain outside of the school day.
Right. And so we spoke about it in our caucus, and we were kind of talking to Dr. Jerry about it, and he gave us some insight on CHR and some concerns there. And then one of the other moms had kind of indicated, like, once my child's out of Enfield Public Schools, what kind of mental health services would be available post EPS, because there's nothing available. Well, they didn't know what was available. So it was great to have social services here tonight because we can go ahead and direct them. But we did suggest to PLA that they invite Ms. Acree and Dr. Kalnin. Amanda's already going to talk about her state role, but to talk to them about what services you could lead them to for students that are leaving Enfield Public Schools that need to have some mental health services.
What you call it, like a continuum of care. I think.
Continuum of care. So it was a really great conversation. So hopefully Ms. Lawler reaches out to you. We also told the parents to email you. So if you do get some emails, we did refer them to you. But I really had, I just felt like the conversations were really great. And that's really, because they were talking about, oh, you don't get paid. And I'm like, but this is the stuff we love, right? We love when students come and we can see their accomplishments, or we can sit in a group like this and feel like we can actually help people. Like that's where the payment comes from. So thank you for sharing with us, PLA people. And if you know how to get in touch with us, but that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Mr. Gauss?
I only have a couple of things. There's not much I can say about the students that have been recognized over and over here, other than just to reiterate the congratulations. But I would like to also expand on what Mr. Ryder said about participating. You don't have to do a lot, just be there. I know I was there all the time when my son was in band at the football games, and you could count fewer parents than there were on the field or in the band. And I knew most of the parents because their kids were in the band. Just be there. You don't have to participate a lot. You may, which is great, but just be there for the kids. And then one more thing for Ms. Serrato. I have the privilege of being associated with the Shrine Hospital up in Springfield. And what you said tonight was amazing. The things those kids are designing, I see that put practically in effect. And these people are artists, and they really improve these kids' lives. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you.
Ms. Acree?
First, I'd like to say kudos to Morgan and Ms. Serrato and Ms. Griffin for what you said tonight. Thank you very much for that. And I just wanted to say I'm looking forward to attending the music festival this Saturday afternoon at Enfield High School and enjoying listening to all of our talented musicians and their beautiful harmonious sounds. So as a retired music specialist, I really appreciate that and all the talent, musical talent that Enfield high schoolers and middle schoolers put out. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Callen?
This is shooting from the hip, so excuse me if it doesn't sound as coherent as it should. But I guess one of the major concerns that I've always had about mental health care is discontinuity of care. That students are restricted to one particular counselor at one particular time. And in the case of CHR, it's almost like a, I'm sorry?
CHC.
CHR. CHR, I know sponsors CHC, but what I'm referring to is the student who goes to CHR and sees a counselor who may be good, maybe not so good, but sees that counselor for a few months, and then the counselor is gone. And then the student has to start from square one with a new counselor, and on it goes. And even when the student leaves school, the question has been raised, well, what then? And again, another instance of discontinuity of care. And my feeling has always been, for many years now, that the one person who is able to provide continuity of care from 0 all the way up to 21 years of age is the doctor. And I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say that again. I don't know how it's going to be done. There are some ideas, but I think in the final analysis, it's the doctor who has to provide that continuity of care whenever there's a transition point. And I think doctors really need to step up to the plate. Mental health is now a primary care issue. There's no way around that. And we have to keep hitting that message at home, that the pediatrician or the family practice doctor really has to assume responsibility, ongoing responsibility. It doesn't mean he can't forge a partnership with CHR or with other mental health specialists. But I think that the primary care physician has to assume primary responsibility for ongoing care for that patient. Much too much has been made of, and I think this is a fault of the mental health community. They stress way too much that information has to be kept strictly confidential, even from the pediatrician, which really, really bothers me, because if you call if the pediatrician were to call the cardiologist and ask the cardiologist for some advice about this patient or an update on his care, if that cardiologist said, sorry, that information is confidential, that would never fly. That would never fly. There are certain things in the medical record, in the not the medical record, but the psychologist's record that can be shared with the pediatrician as long as the parents consent. And I know the parents will always, or not always, but almost always consent if the pediatrician requests it. So it's just a matter of pediatricians stepping up to the plate, holding the counselor's feet to the fire, requiring them to maintain ongoing care with the pediatrician so that he can maintain continuity of care when the student is suddenly left adrift without any counseling at all. So I'm sorry for the rant. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Anybody else want to go? Okay. All right. So, Morgan, awesome job coming up, especially with the lead with empathy and purpose. I think all of our leaders on any stage need to remember that. And I'm glad that you got a chance to come back and talk. So that was good. Maureen, I agree with you 100%. You should always advocate for your kids. And if you don't know how, then please ask around, because there's a lot of people who do know how to help out with advocating for kids. So that's super important. And if something isn't right, say something. And then if something is super great, that's helpful, it might help somebody else, say something about that too. I would really like to hear more about the cerebral palsy design that your students are doing. It'd be really cool if I could come and see that sometime, or at least just hear about it or get some pictures, because that sounds like a really neat project that you're doing in design and modeling. That's pretty cool. Thanks to Mr. Santinella and Carol Hall and Kissel for getting us some extra money this time around, although it still would have been nice if we still gave the governor a hard time, because they still haven't funded special ed the way that they should. And it would be nice if, they didn't send PowerPoints that said you're going to get 91% and then strap you with 67 or 64 or whatever the numbers turn out to be. So it'd still be nice to give them that shot. Then I also, really, we had 3 great things. We had like a trifecta of awesomeness, like with the wrestler, the culinary team. Like, did you guys see those pictures? They were like something you would see like at a Michelin star like restaurant. They're like the little teeny things. I was like, that's like professional. No wonder why they won the gold. And then Buzz Robotics, those guys are awesome. And Tina was talking about they had some hurdles to overcome. Well, they had a robot that couldn't drive on Wednesday, and Sunday they won the whole thing. So kudos to them. Those kids work really hard, and they have really great advisors over there. Then let's see here. Hopefully soon we can get all the 3 state reps to come to a meeting and talk about everything that's going on, because there is, like Mr. Macchio said, a flurry of bills going on. There's bills for like tons of things for education. So it's good to see them, but hopefully maybe we can get some like inside baseball on where they think any of these things are going. That would be really good to do. And then I wanted to I want to talk about first readers, because I've been remiss, been busy. So I usually come before the board, I'll go before the council, and to like explain to exactly what first readers is. So because Mr. Macchio came and he was one of our local celebrities for the evening in our last week's ceremony, I didn't really get to explain it to him, so thanks for coming. But I'm going to give you guys a little background so you guys understand what First Readers is. So we are just a complete volunteer organization. We're separate from the schools. We're separate from the town. We're just an organization that wants to see kids be able to read and succeed in that. Now, we partner with the school system and the library and the parochial schools in town. And what we do is we used to have kids would go down to like the reading specialist, and they would try to read passages from a book, and then if they read the passages, then they'd get a certificate. And so we moved away from that because as more and more of our kids came with more special needs, a lot of kids they viewed that as a test, so we kind of changed it to a more organic thing, and the teachers would recognize that they were an emerging reader, and then we would give them a certificate to say that they were an emerging reader. And then COVID happened, so we changed it over to using the results from like iReady and stuff like that to get the results to see if they're reading at a level. So that's what we're continuing to use because we know the teachers are so far beyond busy. They can always obviously give exceptions to that. That's not a problem. So basically what happens is as soon as the student is identified as an emerging reader, it usually happens sometime between kindergarten and second grade. But we've even certified a 71-year-old because they never could read before. We certified them at the library, so we've done that before.
They get a t-shirt too?
They got a t-shirt, yes. They got the whole thing. We've even done it especially just to go into the DLP classrooms because sometimes our ceremonies are pretty overstimulating because they're loud and there's lots of kids there. But anyways, they get recognized. They come home with a certificate that says, I can read. We sign it, and then they get an invitation to come to a ceremony. And then at the ceremony, they check in, they get a t-shirt, they sit with all their friends, and then we call them up on stage. They get to shake somebody's hand who's a local celebrity. This time it was the superintendent and the deputy superintendent and the assistant superintendent, which was great. And also Mr. Nick Flynn was up there, the reading director, helping us out. And every ceremony, without fail, you will always find Ms. Fitz, Mr. Lord, and Mr. Graham all the time supporting their students. And then there will always be other teachers and staff that are just hanging out there too. So the kids will come up on stage after we call their name, and they get a book and a pencil, and then they get to sit and wait while all their other friends are called up. And then at the end, they have their orange shirts on. That says I can read, and we have them scream I can read, and then we take their picture. And then when they leave, they get to leave with a medal that's got like a book on it and it says reading. So we've been doing this for 14 years. We are just self-funded by the one fundraiser that we have every year, or sometimes we'll be lucky to get a grant. I've been doing it for 11 years now, and so far we've certified around 6,000 students. So it's a good program. We're always looking for volunteers. We need them desperately, so if you guys are interested, check out our Facebook page. So that's my public service announcement for first readers. And then, let's see here. So Saturday, I'm kind of excited to go to the inter-school concert. It's at 3:30 at the high school, which the student reps already said. And then, basically, we got lucky enough to be invited, the superintendent, Tina, and myself, got invited to go to the Capitol to go speak with the Speaker of the House last week. And we went to talk about Alliance funding and excess cost. I don't know where that whole discussion is going to go, but if you ask me to come and be the cheerleader for Enfield to see if we can get more money, I'm going to go, no matter what. So we went. We know it's going to happen, but we're going to have another discussion on Thursday with the state reps. So hopefully we can get something going for Enfield. And that's all I got. Okay, moving on. Unfinished business, policy revisions, second reading. Ms. Cushman. We've got, yep, okay.
All right.
Take it away.
Policy 5131.61, chemical health for student athletes. Though this current policy, this is specific to student athletes, we do have a current policy 5131 that addresses student use of alcohol, drugs, tobacco, and performance-enhancing substances. This one aligns our district with recommendations of the Shipman Policy Service and the Connecticut General Statutes. I would like to make a motion to approve the second reading of Policy 5131.61, chemical health for student athletes.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Cushman, second by Mr. Kober. Discussion?
Sorry, I just have one question. I'm sorry that I didn't recognize it when we did the first reading. But in our board packet, in the policy, at the top heading, it says it's a student policy, 5131.61, and then it says exploitation, sexual harassment, and I didn't understand why that was in the heading when reading the rest of the policy around the chemical health policy for student athletes.
I don't know that I noticed that either.
Page number it is in our board packet.
Page 11.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's right on the first page, Amanda.
Yeah, I want to say, I think that was erroneously pasted in there.
yeah,
I don't recall seeing that in the policy.
I believe it's a typo.
Yeah.
Because we went through so many different policies, we were copying and pasting them from Shipman and Goodwin.
I'll just get rid of it.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that language is not included in our final version.
Good
So
catch, Amanda.
an amendment to make sure that language is removed, or I don't know if we need a formal amendment or.
Don't.
Perfect.
I'll just get rid of it.
Perfect. Then we will remove that language.
Cool.
Make it easy.
Thanks for the catch, Amanda.
So to confirm, it'll go from the word students to chemical health policy for student athletes. Okay.
Okay, cool. Any other discussion? Okay. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mr. Kober,
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mrs. Acree,
Yes.
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Ms. Cushman?
The next policy, Policy 5141.23, is concerning sunscreen application in school. In accordance with the Connecticut General Statutes, this new policy provides guidance on the possession and self-application of an over-the-counter sunscreen product for any student who is 6 years of age or older while in school. I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of Policy 5141.23 concerning sunscreen application in school.
Motion made by Ms. Cushman,
Second.
second by Dr. Callen. Any discussion on this one? Okay, roll call, please, Kathy.
Mr. Kober,
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mrs. Akri,
Yes.
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Next one.
The next policy is Policy 5200, Use of Private Technology Devices by Students. This new policy provides guidance to district staff, students, and families regarding the use of privately owned technological devices on school property and/or during school-sponsored activities. Updated administrative regulations specific to each individual school will continue to be provided in the parent-student handbooks to provide greater detail to family and students. I would like to make a motion to approve the second reading of Policy 5200, Use of Private Technology Devices by Students.
Motion made by Mrs. Cushman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kober. Any discussion on this? Mr. Kober?
So I think I made some comments last weekend, but just to reiterate, so this is a new policy that includes some definitions, overview of responsibilities and so forth on use of private technology devices by students. And I just want to reaffirm that this is, it covers a lot of cell phone use. That's been a hot topic. However, from the board, it's delegating most of the responsibility to either the superintendent level or the school principal to be defined in student handbooks. So each school or each level will see specific guidance for students in those grades rather than an all-encompassing solution for the district. So just want to point that out.
Ms. Pickett?
I'm going to piggyback on that, Phil. So thank you and Janet for highlighting the importance of, like, I think our role as a board is setting policy, but like what it looks like in implementation and practice is up to the professionals in the school level. And I think that's an important explicit piece. And I think as far as a delicate subject like behavior and technology, people have lots of feelings about kids having access or not having access and what that should look like. I am concerned because there is, not concerned, but I think something for us to be very clear about in our code of conducts or student handbooks is the search and seizure piece. So I know we have some language around that. And then there's some things around when applicable and in accordance with other board policies. I think we might want to look at our other board policies around those things and make some explicit connections and ensure that in the code of conduct we're clear on that, because I do know in my other walk of life, I handle lots of calls and concerns around, can they look through my kid's device? Like, is that allowable? So just want to make sure that we get ahead of how we're communicating that and what our procedures are. Thanks.
Anybody else? Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mr. Kober,
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mrs. Akri,
Yes.
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Next one.
The next policy is Policy 4118.5, Employee Use of the District's Computer System and Electronic Communications. This policy from Shipman is a direct replacement of our current CAPE policy titled Computer Network and/or Internet Use, providing guidance to all district employees. This policy requires the superintendent to establish regulations in line with this policy, addressing the incidental personal use of a district's computer system. I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of Policy 4118.5, Employee Use of the District's Computer Systems and Electronic Communications.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Cushman, second by Mr. Kober. Any discussion on this? Mr. Ryder?
Just for clarification, Mrs. Cushman. So 4118.5 is also later, or is next on our agenda to rescind an obsolete policy.
Right.
Could you clarify that we're passing this and then voting it obsolete in the next 40 seconds?
So the
Just so everybody's
number's
aware.
remaining the same.
Okay.
But it has a new title and all completely new content.
Thank you.
That mirrors, that is from the Shipman Policy Service.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. Anybody else? Mr. Kober?
Yeah, as I said, and I think I also made my comments on this one last time. So this is an updated part of the conversion we're doing to the Shipman policy service model, includes some updated definition, and also does place the onus on some more administrative regulation to be set by the central office level. So we're streamlining policies and then also further delegating some stuff away from the board to the superintendent to implement.
Anybody else? Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mr. Kober,
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mrs. Akri,
Yes.
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
And the last one, policy 5118.3, educational stability procedures for transportation coordination with the Department of Children and Families. This policy from Shipman is also a direct replacement of our district's current CABE policy, which is titled Homeless Students, provides more accurate, updated procedures that reflect the current practice based on legislation. This policy addresses the issue of transportation of children in DCF custody once DCF has determined that it is in the best interest of a child to remain in the district's school, the child's school of origin. I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of policy 5118.3, educational stability procedures for transportation coordination with the Department of Children and Families.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Cushman, second by Mr. Kober. Any discussion? Amanda, Ms. Pickett?
I was just going to say, I appreciate the language and like intentionality. I was looking at our old policy. I think this is giving an opportunity to be reflective and like not very student or strength-based language in our old policies. And I think it's helpful to be a clear title as far as exactly what this policy is about. So I appreciate this effort.
Mr. Ryder?
I just wanted to point out for everybody watching that we will also be rescinding 5118.3. So although we're approving it now, we'll be potentially voting to obsolete it shortly. So in case you're hearing the same numbers, that's what's going on.
And again, a nice way to think about this, and maybe we can streamline it, is just think about these as complete replacements. So we're completely abolishing the previous and replacing with the new model.
First approving the new ones, and then we're going to be. Right, and you get rid of the old ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it almost makes sense to do it the other way around. And that's why I just wanted to clarify in case somebody's like, they just said that number and passed it. And then 30 seconds later, they all rescinded it 9-0. So I just wanted to be clear.
No, absolutely. Yep. And you're going to have a lot more of these to come as we continue to go through the manual.
All right. Anybody else? Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. But just and maybe I need to rephrase it, because when I say it's a direct replacement of our current policy, that's the intent, but is there a better way to say it?
Well, we can work on
Okay.
logistically making it cleaner for everyone so that it's more easily understood. So that's fine.
All right. Clear as mud. Let's do this. We're good. It's fine. We got this. We're just trying to be funny.
The key is that the names that are associated
Changing.
with, right? So
And some of the content.
peeling the old name, bringing in the new name.
Yep.
And right. I think
Yes,
Scott's
that's
point, get rid of the
understandable.
old
I'm just
before you
saying
bring
we're
in the new.
approving a new policy with the same number, and we're about to rescind that same number. So technically, we're also rescinding what we just approved moments earlier. So I just wanted to clarify.
But it does have a different title, so
Correct.
that at least helps.
And we would offer a little bit more explanation as we go into that next part, too.
Okay. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mr. Kober,
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc.
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mrs. Acree,
Yes.
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Moving on to new business. Now to rescinding obsolete policies.
Here we go.
Do you want to do them all together?
I mean, they've only been in place for a minute and a half, so we should probably rescind them.
You're going to confuse everybody now. You want to do them all together? Yeah, we do them all together.
I get approving them separately.
Okay.
Do you want me to go ahead and read them all?
Yeah, sure.
So I'd like to make a motion to rescind policy 5118.3, homeless students. Policy 4118.5, computer network and/or internet use. And also to rescind policy 3171.1, non-lapsing education fund for non-regional school districts.
Motion made by Ms. Cushman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kober. Mr. Kober.
So, and I'll add for everybody's sanity, so we are rescinding the legacy versions of these policies, not the ones we just approved.
Okay. Anybody else? Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mr. Kober,
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mrs. Acree,
Yes.
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley.
Yes. Okay, so B, 11B is going to be addressed after we have the executive session regarding the Enfield Teachers Association MOU.
So, Madam Chair, may I make a motion to move item 11B to item 17?
Motion made by Mr. Ryder. I need a second.
Second.
By Ms. Cushman. Show of hands in favor. There are 9 in favor, none against. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, board committee reports. Curriculum committee.
The next meeting is Thursday, March 13th at 5 with Michelle Middleton.
Okay. Finance and budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finance Budget Committee last met on Tuesday, March 4th. Our next meeting will be Monday, April 7th at 5 p.m. Approval and accounts of payroll for the month of February will be reviewed during agenda item 15 later tonight. During the meeting of the subcommittee, we reviewed the current year FY25 budget, and a summary is as follows. Our original appropriation was $77,429,555. Our year-to-date expenditures, considering offsets, is $49,424,241, with a projected encumbrance of $75,664,430. This will leave us with a projected surplus of $1,615,125 as of this report. We also reviewed a summary of grants going over FY25 and FY26. So just to highlight FY25 grants, we had applied for $4,737,398, and we were awarded to date $4,754,634. And there's also a couple FY26 grants that are also being applied for. During this meeting, we also reviewed the superintendent's memorandum to staff that will effectively implement the freeze on the budget effective March 15th of this year to allow encumbered funds and open orders to be reconciled well in advance of the end of the fiscal year, which will be June 30th. Pending any questions, that'll conclude my report.
Any questions for Mr. Cover? Okay. All right, policy committee. Thank you, Mr. Cover.
The policy committee will next be meeting on Tuesday, April 22nd at 5:30.
Okay. All right, leadership committee. We met last week on the 5th. Our next leadership meeting is on April 2nd. We went over the budget. We went over legislation. We went over the Move It Stowe. We went over maintenance issues, budget updates, and we discussed in executive session superintendent evaluation, next steps. Okay.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. Did we schedule the date for that eval workshop?
On the next agenda, we're going to discuss it in executive session.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, liaison reports. Any school reports or updates people want to give? Mr. Coburn.
All right. Do my quick shout out to Henry Barnard, friends and family. Just letting everybody know that trimester 2 report cards went out last week. Also, last week marked Read Across America and the related Spirit Days. Upcoming events unique to Henry Barnard includes kindergarten math and literacy nights, which will be held next Tuesday, March 18th. And the next night, the March 19th, will be the grade 1 science night. As my usual reminder, also keep an eye out for the Big Cat newsletter, which is delivered via Parent Square, where you can opt to receive it via the app, via text, or through email. And that's all I have.
Mr. Coburn. Ms. Pickett.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on plugging Parent Square. I think that we're doing a great job as a district using that avenue to communicate with families. So as ESS and Parkman parent, and I'm not even sure what official school I am a representative anymore for, but I will share that there's a lot going on with literacy math night at Parkman and events happening, so to definitely check out Parent Square. I would also say that our PTOs are doing a great job of sharing information on Facebook. So I know recently a PTO member posted on Parkman, like, we need size shirts for field day, and like who still needs to do that. So there's great resources that are posted on the PTO Facebook page, which might be not as savvy with our young students, but us parents I think are still part of the Facebook, and that's a helpful place too to also get the information. The Facebook. I also just want to shout out, I know Chef O and the culinary program has been shouted out multiple times, but I personally know Chef O, and I remember a graduation a couple years ago when one of our students spoke about the impact of him in the class, and I hear him, like he showed up at pickup at Enfield Street School and beaming about the day. And so I know the sense of pride he has, and I also know the students and the sense of pride that they have and the hard work that goes into it. So thank you to their work, and I wish them good luck in nationals.
Okay, Dr. Callen?
Just a quick update on KITE. KITE, in partnership with Enfield Head Start, is hosting the biannual Heritage Fair coming up on March 29th from 11 to 2:30 p.m. at JFK Middle School. There are close to 40 cultures represented through either food, display table, or performance. This is free to attend, but cash for food. KITE, in partnership with Enfield Public Schools, is hosting Enfield Gets Ready for Kindergarten Night. This is for all incoming kindergarten students for the 25-26 school year. This year, the event will be on Thursday, April 3rd, from 6 to 7 p.m. at JFK. It's free to attend, and no RSVP is required, but please note there is no childcare available. Participants will learn about the kindergarten day, meet school administration officials, and hear more about how to get involved in your child's school. Thank you.
Mr. Ryder?
Just wanted to piggyback to what Dr. Callen said. Actually, the public is invited to come to Enfield Gets Ready for Kindergarten from 5:30 on. So some of the PTOs are going to go a little bit early and set up. So if you do want to go and like chat with other parents, like other PTO moms and dads that have been in your shoes last year or 14 or 15 years ago, if you wanted to go a little bit early and just ask some questions, feel free to do that. The event itself starts at, I think you said 6:30?
I'm sorry?
Is it 6:30 in your notes? Yeah. So we'll be there pretty much from 5:30 on setting up, and you can come as early as 6. So you can come a few minutes early if you'd like, just to have the opportunity to speak to another parent. Sometimes it's better if you ask questions of another parent than emailing a principal you haven't met yet to say, how does it work? Do I send in my student with, a pair of boots when weather gets inclement, down the road, or, just things like that. And sometimes it's just easier to ask a fellow parent or a neighbor, versus like, emailing a teacher you haven't met yet or a school principal you haven't met yet. And all of our kindergarten, all of our K-2 teachers, like you said, Dr. Fitzsimmons, Mark Lord, and Jim Graham are all amazing, and you're going to have a great time in our schools, and they're going to be welcoming, and they're great. I've worked with all three of them for many, many years, and I'm excited for you to come and meet them. But if you have a question that you feel is more appropriate, just ask a peer, another parent versus somebody else, then please come and do that as well. As everybody said, make sure you download Parent Square. Enfield PTO is still up and running, but a lot of that is now just direct links to Parent Square and how to sign up for it, et cetera. That filled a gap that we didn't have in our community for 8 school years now. So I'm proud of that. It's still up and running. It's not going anywhere, but I'm proud that Parent Square is now something that the school district is doing, which is similar to what I had set out to do with Enfield PTO, where you could see everything in one place. And if you had a student at 2 different schools, it's just the next tab over. And Parent Square is as easy as that. You can follow different schools. As board members, we follow all the buildings. As parents, we follow 1 or 2. But I just want to make sure that everybody does have that app and utilizes it. Nothing specific for Eli Whitney this week, other than check Parent Square for updates, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Could I just make a clarification? Actually, I should have said that the event begins at 6 p.m.
Okay. So you're welcome to come anytime after 5:30.
All right, Ms. Acree?
From the desk of Mr. DePere at Crandall, thank you all for your participation in Read Across America Week. It was a fantastic way to have some fun and foster a love of reading among our community. Parent-teacher conferences will be held on Wednesday, March 12th. We look forward to meeting and discussing your child's progress. The readathon will take place on Thursday, March 13th. Our final turn-in date will be this Wednesday, March 12th. Thank you all for all of your support. And students may wear pajamas and bring a towel or a blanket with a stuffed animal to get cozy and read. And lastly, please purchase your tickets for the Barnard Crandall PTO prize calendar. See the link in the newsletter.
All right, anybody else? I just want to say, you guys all should have gotten an email for Hazardville Memorial. When I say you guys, I mean the Board of Ed, not
everybody at home.
Not everybody. Hazardville Memorial parents probably got one. Read to Me Day is March 19th, and most students will have a special person come and read with them, but obviously work and all of that gets in the way. So if any of us Board of Ed members have some time to give that day, it would be great to bring your own book, use one of their books, and go read to those kids over there. Okay. Joint Facilities Committee.
I have a meeting on the calendar for the 13th, but I haven't seen an agenda yet, so I don't know if that's on or not. Unfortunately, I have parent-teacher conferences, but I do have the date of March 13th for that.
I have the same thing. And then I just wanted to make a slight clarification. So last meeting.
Our last meeting or last joint facilities?
Our last Board of Education
Okay.
meeting, I had discussed the roof for Parkman, that there might be trouble submitting along with the pre-ref. And then the Friday after we had that meeting, there was a meeting with the state. So they asked the different people at the state, and then they got a different answer. So the answer is they can go ahead, and you just won't be reimbursed for things in the referendum that may penetrate parts of the roof, but like an example of that is like, let's say like an HVAC system is on the roof. They will only not reimburse for the like piece of flange. Like
That touches the roof.
Yeah, the $5 part that touches the roof, they might not reimburse for that part. But, so, more to come. We'll see if that changes.
Madam Chair, I had a
Yes.
quick question. I don't know, I just thought of this. This might not be for joint facilities, maybe through joint facilities to super, but I know we talked about the move for the 2 classrooms from Stowe to ESS, and that's done. So obviously, we're assuming that's for the rest of the school year. So when we talk about like just long-term planning, are we planning next year that we're opening those classes in ESS? Are we planning to move more programs? Has there been talks about that? Or like, I guess, what's our trajectory so we're not having PK split between 2 different buildings?
Yep, we did have a discussion in leadership about options for next year possibly, but it's really just Jacqueline Valley's got to work with Mr. Micah to see what's the best solution for that, and if Stowe even gets repaired.
Exactly. So exactly what she said. Currently still studying in terms of what would be the best possible option, because please remember, as part of your budget that we approved and sent to town council, we did have an additional integrated pre-K teacher that's being added because of the expected volume of pre-K. Space, as we know, at Stowe is limited, to say the least. And we're trying to get things like OT, PT, and things like that off of the back corner of the stage. So to be investigated further. Without a doubt, those pre-K classrooms will be there through the year, and I would highly anticipate that they will be starting over there for next year. But in terms of how much will be there, it's still being investigated.
Can I piggyback on
Sure.
that? Sorry, I'm just
Go
going
ahead,
to add my 2 cents here because we know that Stowe is busting at the seams. I also just think, though, it's really important for us to consider the impact of services and splitting like just a few classrooms and another off-site. Transportation challenges and changes that must make access to supports and services that are housed at Stowe. So does that mean the ESS staff are servicing them, or are we having staff going back and forth between buildings? I'm seeing head shaking, so that's just a wonder of mine.
All services provided to the kids over at Stowe are now being provided to them at ESS.
By ESS special ed?
There is a share. There is a share for some things, but it's all being sort of worked out, and so that there is minimal transition between the buildings.
Okay. And then I'm just going to, I don't want this to come out as I'm not highly supportive of our collaboration with our shared town space at Stowe Early Learning Center. But when I look at our shared space there and programmings that are being used, I wonder if there's alternative town space for some of those programs. I love our FRC. Obviously, we heard about it here tonight. I love ECDC. That's not saying that I don't want those continued partnerships. But when I think about educational supports and services and mandated supports for our most vulnerable students, being located where all the other classroom staffs and supports are is critical. And I am a huge advocate for our pre-K model. It's obviously working. It's one of our shining stars here. And having a one-stop shop for our preschool supports and services is critical. So I really hope that there's some continued dialogue and openness to the town to look at creative solutions to ensure our preschool programs can remain at Stowe.
Then that's kind of part of, that goes in with the pre-referendum or any referendum or roof project or anything for reimbursement with the state. I think we're going to have to relook at what programs are shared in what buildings, because then if that affects reimbursement rates for things, then that causes serious issues that we need to take into consideration.
I guess the last thing to add, just not to go down the rabbit hole too, but because the pre-referendum, they're only looking at K through 5, so currently there's no
Pre-K through 5.
Pre-K through 5. Okay, so they are looking at Stowe and Eagle as well and evaluating those buildings. Okay,
Everything is
perfect. Just
in the picture.
making sure that that's also being evaluated then.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. Okay, Joint Insurance Committee, it wasn't exactly a joint meeting, but Cigna came and Lockton came on March 4th. It was a very robust discussion. They brought pharmacy claims, medical claims, claim trends. They brought options for where we could go when, contracts were up, multiple options to help reduce claim costs and utilization, but also help the actual members with getting correct and appropriate care, and medical management and all that sort of thing. So it was a good discussion. I can't wait to have some more, because I think we're definitely going in the right direction with our discussions now, and hopefully we'll just continue with them. This will be good. Joint Security Committee,
March 14th is the next meeting.
that is this Friday.
I wasn't just saying numbers, sorry.
Yep. Okay, Enfield, going back to Joint Security, the Route 5 signs. We've asked multiple times. It's difficult to get traction in the room on the Route 5 thing. I feel like the Route 5 issue with the high school and Enfield Street, that whole area has been, it's a marathon that's just not ever going to end. I don't think there's going to be a solution. But we'll keep asking and keep pushing. But it's
I appreciate,
traction is
Charlotte,
difficult.
You circling back. I'm sorry, I'm a broken record on that. I'm just a huge advocate for prevention measures and knowing that there are least costly and often most effective solutions. I also, last week, had the joy of riding to many different schools around the state, and I went by a school that seemed to be on a state road, so I don't know what laws and permits and things pertain to this, but they had huge school zone painted on the road. It was just very obvious where the school zone started and ended, just as markings. And they were painted on the road. And I thought that was an interesting way of doing this and must not have been too costly. So I just think that there's solutions, and I'm not trying to pit blame. I just think that the reality is there are traffic concerns on that road, regardless if data confirms it or not. We know that there's been horrendous accidents right here. We also know that we have many students and many families coming and going and buses. So just something to consider.
Madam Chair, I have a quick question. So related to what Ms. Pickett brought up earlier with the Public Safety Subcommittee, we as a Board of Education have never had representation on there, but I do see, to her point, there are a couple of agenda items on there that relate to the schools? Is that something that our superintendent or assistant superintendents are invited to, just so we know what comes out of those meetings? Because if something related to our schools, and I know it's related to the buildings themselves or the roads that they're on, not necessarily the students, but just the fact that it affects the schools and we don't have representation on there, even from our superintendents, how do we get updates on things of that nature?
Well, yeah, and the legal opinion says that when the kids are in the schools, they're under the superintendent's care. They're not the towns, they're the superintendent's buildings.
To be clear, I'm on a lot of committees, so I'm not asking. But I just think if some of the topics are related to us as an entity, how do we hear what those conversations were, what comes of them, et cetera? I just wanted to ask.
I don't have an answer, except we can definitely ask the question during joint security. of
Yeah, I
how
was
they
gonna say,
plan
it
to
could be
relay
a
the
clarity in role and responsibility of the committees. Like, it could just be what
Yeah,
is.
I have not been invited specifically to it, but we can bring it up this Friday and see if maybe I can ask if Scott could join another committee.
Or I'm going to propose maybe it's truly just evaluating.
I would be more than
role.
happy to sit on it if
Yeah.
I just need to know when it is and I can add on the calendar.
It might just simply be that they have a discussion because they've got, Enfield, they got fire, police, EMS, like way more represented than we have at
Sure.
that meeting. So.
And we're not always on their agenda. I mean, there aren't always topics specific to us or what we do on the agenda. But I'm saying when there are, because they are posted publicly, I saw the agenda, and there was 2 or 3 things that are related to schools in general.
Well, we could
That's all.
definitely ask at joint security. I don't see that being an issue, for sure. And we'll go from there. All right, Enfield Mental Health Committee?
Yes, we're meeting tomorrow, March 12th at 2 o'clock with Mr. Longy.
Pre-referendum committee.
Yes, yay, exciting. So the committee is in the stages of developing the RFQ, request for qualifications, for the architect/engineer firms. There will be no formal meeting this week. However, we will tour Stowe, and we will focus on the rooms that the students were displaced from, ESS and Eagle Academy. In talking to Andy, we know that some of us have already seen these rooms, but we don't want to lose momentum because once we get the information, we're not going to really want to be touring the buildings. We're going to have a lot to talk about at the meetings. I also want to take a minute to thank Mr. Gauss for joining us the last time, and if you can make it tomorrow, that would be great because you're going to get to see Stowe, Enfield Street, and Eagle. I'm just trying to see. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 26th, which will be at a different school, but we haven't determined that yet. As Randy Daigle says at every meeting, and Ms. Riley and Ms. Cushman and Ms. Pickett, you can attest, everything is on the table right now. We are looking at everything. So it's an exciting time to be part. It's an exciting committee to be part of it. And Randy did convince Mr. Ryder to run the PAC, so that's the most exciting news out of the committee. The political activist, what is it?
Political Action Committee.
Political Action Committee. Mr. Ryder had done that for the JFK pre-ref committee, the second one. So more news on that. But as of now, that's what's going on tomorrow, March 12th, and then March 26th is the next meeting.
And
Just a reminder that for tomorrow night's tour, because some of the schools will have conferences.
Yes.
So we won't be able to go into every classroom, but we'll still be able to tour all the buildings.
Yes, that's what Mr. Digg had indicated.
And then did you mention, I can't remember if you just said it or not, the last town council meeting, they did approve more money for us to use for the out to bid for the architect, which is great. I was sitting in the audience watching it happen. So that's good news because we're definitely going to need that because it is a big scope.
Yeah.
The architect's going to have to do.
Yeah, no, I did not. But thank you for bringing that up. And it's going to be the other thing that we talk about, and it's an exciting time, is Mr. Kober, they're upping the ante on pre-K. So there originally, when we started looking at this project, there was no reimbursement for pre-K. And now there is, and it's more. And that's because I think they're going to tell us that universal pre-K is at some point mandated. So they're trying to sweeten the pot on that. So.
All right, so anybody else? Good, okay. Approval of minutes, regular Board of Ed meeting minutes, February 25th, 2025. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Cover.
Second.
By Mrs. LeBlanc. Any discussion on the minutes? Sensing none. Show of hands in favor of approval? 9 in favor, none against. All right, Mr. Cover, approval of accounts and payroll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Finance Committee met on March 4th, 2025 to review financial statements for the month of February year-to-date and examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded there was nothing significant to report to the board. I therefore move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. Quote, I hereby certify in the month of February, total expenditures amount to $6,145,921.32, broken down between payroll totaling $4,359,467.94 and other accounts totaling $1,786,453.38. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented, end quote, prepared by Lorena Cisneros, Business Manager.
Motion made by Mr. Cover. Second by Mr. Ryder. Any discussion? Okay, sensing none. Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against.
All right, certification relating to grant and Head Start expenditures. I move we accept the certification as follows. Quote, I hereby certify that in the month of February, total grant and Head Start expenditures amount to $654,809.79, broken down between payroll totaling $457,306.30 and other accounts totaling $197,503.49. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented, end quote, prepared by Lorena Cisneros, Business Manager.
Motion made by Mr. Cover.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ryder. Any discussion? Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against.
No further items for 15.
Thank you, Mr. Cover. Mr. Ryder, do we have correspondence or board communications?
I was just going to mention the invitation from Dr. Fitzsimmons, but thank you for covering that. That's all we had.
Okay, so item 17 is executive session. I will need a motion to go into executive session regarding matters related to collective bargaining and
So moved.
Okay, and then we are going to
Not return to camera.
not return to the camera, and but we will come out and vote afterwards.
Okay.
I will second the motion.
All right. Motion made by Mr. Ryder, second by Mr. Cover. All in favor. Show of hands. 9 in favor, none against.
Mr. Cober agreed to go in